Now let's calculate the value of exponential expressions. And we're going to start with calculating the value of 2 to the 4th power, or 2 to the 4th for short. So our first step is to rewrite 2 to the 4th as repeated multiplication. Since our base is 2 and our exponent is 4, 2 to the 4th tells us that we're going to multiply 4 2's together. So we could rewrite this as 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. And let's color code these multiplication operators. So here we go. So the process of rewriting our exponential expression as repeated multiplication is also called expanding. And we call it expanding because we are rewriting our shorter exponential expression into the longer repeated multiplication. Now that we have expanded 2 to the 4th, let's calculate this product. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply two numbers at a time. So let's start with these first 2's at the beginning. 2 times 2 equals 4. So we're going to replace 2 times 2 with its product 4. And now we're going to check to see if we have any numbers left over to multiply. And we have these 2's at the end. So we're going to bring down these 2's. And our next line will be 4 times 2 times 2. So we're going to continue our calculation here. So next, we're going to multiply the 4 and the 2 together. 4 times 2 equals 8. So we're going to replace 4 times 2 with its product 8. And again, we're going to check to see if we have any other numbers to multiply. We have this 2 left over. So let's bring down this 2. And our next line will become 8 times 2. And we're almost done. 8 times 2 equals 16. So that finishes the calculation. So this tells us that 2 to the 4th power equals 16. And we are done. Another way we can calculate the value of 2 to the 4th is to regroup the product into pairs of 2's to multiply together. So we have already expanded 2 to the 4th as multiplying 4 2's together. So now let's talk about the regrouping piece. Recall that a pair is a set of two things. So you can think of like a pair of shoes. That is a set of two shoes. So what we're going to do is we're going to make these pairs of 2's inside our repeated multiplication problem. So the way we're going to do that, I'm going to make the first pair of 2's right here, and then the last pair of 2's here. So now that we regrouped this repeated multiplication problem into pairs of 2's, let's calculate the product of each pair of 2's. We know that 2 times 2 is 4, so we know the product of both pairs of 2's. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace these pairs of 2's with their products of 4. So let's do that. So we know this first pair of 2's will be replaced with its product 4 times the product of the last pair of 2's, which is equal to 4. And now we only have two numbers to multiply. We know that 4 times 4 equals 16. Let me move this down a little bit. 4 times 4 equals 16. So that means that 2 to the 4th equals 16, just like we did the first time we calculated. And we are done. Let's review the two ways we calculate the value of 2 to the 4th. In our first way, we multiply two numbers at a time. So in our first line, we multiply these first two 2's together. So 2 times 2 is 4, and so we replace these first two 2's with its product of 4. So our second line was 4 times 2 times 2. And we repeat the process. So we replace 4 times 2 with its product of 8. And then our third line, we got 8 times 2. And 8 times 2 is equal to 16. So we got 2 to the 4th equals 16. In our second way, we were able to make pairs of 2's before we multiplied. And then we calculated the product of these pairs of 2's. So each of them had 2 times 2, and both of them have a product of 4. So that means we replace these pairs of 2's with their products of 4. So our second line was 4 times 4. And we know 4 times 4 equals 16. So again, we got 2 to the 4th equals 16. So we got the same answer. However, the way we grouped the numbers we multiplied together was different in each way. So this grouping property of multiplication is called the associative property. And what the associative property tells us is that no matter how we group the numbers we multiply together, and it doesn't matter the order we calculate the products of these groups, if we do the multiplication correctly, we will always get the same answer. So the associative property gives us different ways of finding the value of exponential expressions. Now let's calculate the value of 5 to the 3rd power. 5 to the 3rd tells us that we're going to multiply 3 5's together. So we could write this as 5 times 5 times 5. And let's color code the multiplication operators. Now we're going to multiply 2 numbers at a time. So let's first multiply these 2 5's in the beginning. 5 times 5 equals 25. So we're going to replace these 2 5's with the product of 25. And now we're going to bring down this 5 we haven't used. So on now we have 25 times 5. And we only have 2 numbers that we have to multiply. So we're going to find this product with long multiplication. So let's do it up here. So here we have 25 times 5. I'm going to multiply them together. And let's get started. 5 times 5 equals 25, so we could carry the 2. Then we do 5 times 2, which is equal to 10. But we have to add the number we carried. So 10 plus 2 equals 12. So 25 times 5 equals 125. Which means that 5 to the 3rd equals 125. And we are done. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to see if the associative property is still true in this example. So let's copy this and let's paste on the other side. So here we go. And now instead of multiplying these 2 5's in the beginning, we're going to first multiply these 2 5's at the end. So now we have 5 times 5, which is equal to 25. And we're going to replace these 5's at the end with the product of 25. And this time we're bringing down the 5 we haven't used yet in the beginning. So now we have 5 times 25. And if you notice here, 5 times 25 looks very close to 25 times 5. And it does turn out that 25 times 5 is equal to 5 times 25, which has a product of 125. And this tells us that the order of multiplication does not matter. And this is another property of multiplication, which we call the commutative property. The commutative property. So it tells us no matter what order we multiply 2 numbers together, we still get the same product. Alright, so now using the commutative property, we know 5 times 25 equals 125. So again, we got the value of 5 to the 3rd to be equal to 125. And we're done. So this confirms that the associative property is still true in this example. So now we're done with this calculation. In our next video, we're going to talk about the multiples of 10, such as 100 and 10 and 6,200, and we're going to multiply them and find shortcuts on how to find their products. And then we're going to talk about powers of 10, which means we're raising 10 to different exponents. So more is coming up in the next video, and I'll see you later.